This is what your boomer reform voting parents are consuming on their phones, by the way. Holy these thumbnails.
I'm terrified every single day my kids leave for school. You never know if they'll come home safe anymore. Where are the police? We pay our taxes, but our streets have been abandoned to gangs and knife crime. It's disgusting.
I just tried to buy a loaf of bread and they told me they don't accept cash anymore. Ridiculous. They wanted me to download some app on a smartphone to pay. I don't even own a smartphone. It's completely unfair. It feels like they are punishing us for getting older. We are being completely shut out of our own community. Cash is legal tender.
We just stopped here to get something to eat, simple as that. But there's nothing halal here at all. Nothing. How are families supposed to travel like this? This is the UK. People from all backgrounds live here. But there's no proper choice for everyone. We're not asking for anything extreme.
I can totally see some 70-year-old being like, yeah, fucking A, man. Get these fuckers out of my country, god damn it. The only thing I hate more than this guy is the fact that all you motherfuckers couldn't see through this guy on day one. Fuck you.
Why don't you like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson?
Because they've said some horrific things over the years.
So what?
I mean, why don't you like Ben Shapiro?
I mean, Piers Morgan has said the horrible things over the years.
He's not said anything close to what Tucker Carlson has said about Muslims, about Arabs, about immigrants.
And why can't we be strategic and use their platforms?
They can.
Yeah, but like
some people do.
You don't like that. You don't like.
No, it's not that I don't like it. It's that my worry is that for the sake of one important issue, Gaza is a huge issue. We're giving a pass to these people to launder some of their other objectionable. Like I said just now, they're not disowning Trump. Actually, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm gonna have to go home and take a shower after this. I give her credit out of all of them because she actually picked a fight with Trump. She gave up her political career. So she actually put her money where her mouth is, to use a phrase. The rest of Tucker doesn't say a single anti-Trump word. He acts like the war in Iran came down from the skies. Look, we wouldn't be in this war in Iran had Tucker not promoted Trump for president, had Candace not promoted Trump for president, had Megyn Kelly not promoted Trump for president. We're in this war, and Joe Rogan, Theo Von, all these guys. Did you watch Joe and Theo the other day saying they're fucking terrorists, Israel? I can't believe we're in this war. You guys gave us Trump. You said Kamala Harris is going to do war. Trump is anti-war. How did that work out?
I think it's all an act.
Well, whatever it is, they got their act fucking wrong.
Well, they're actually not. They're doing very well, and they're reaching a lot of people, and they're affecting a lot of people.
But they're affected badly. I could argue that Joe Rogan helped Donald Trump win, so Joe Rogan is the reason we're in the war, Iran. If I wanted to, I'm just saying. If I took that argument to its logical conclusion,
do you think Joe Rogan would help? Like the Democrats, they would never like stand up for his opponent. What was her name?
Kamala Harris.
He
was a Bernie guy once, but then he got red pilled.
She is that useless.
Red pilled. Maybe.
It's just so crazy how unified the entire world is in attacking the Democratic Party. It's just so crazy to me. Harris, who was a district attorney in was it San Francisco, and then an attorney general in California, and then a senator in California, and then the vice president of the United States is this unqualified, retarded bitch. Meanwhile, Donald Trump, one of the most retarded motherfuckers that I've ever had the displeasure of listening to, is the president of my country, the most retarded motherfucker, and all these people can't help but simp like crazy for him. It's insane to me. It is crazy how relentless. Dude, you ever listen to... Bro, you want some dark times? Just going back and listening to Hillary speak ever is like, holy shit. Like, not to borrow vernacular from 10 years ago, but she would have girl bossed the fuck out of the presidency and the United States. It would be crazy. I cannot... I don't know if it's too strong a statement, but unironically, I don't know if Russia invades Ukraine if Hillary Clinton is president. I'm not actually sure if that even happens. I don't know if Putin would even do it. The total 180 on reality. Trump is respected all over the world. Everybody fears us now. Trump is respected. We are more respected than ever. It's just but the coordination from Russia, from Qatar, from all the paid fucking losers all over the world, from the bot networks, from the Republican Party, from the Arabs, from everybody, is just insane to me. Holy shit.
She's that useless.
But you're missing my point. My point is...
And look, even Mehdi is cucked on this. and that he can't defend her. I feel like I'm the only person on the fucking internet, except for IRI and maybe Josiah, who will like positively stand on business for Biden or Kamala. Everybody else, you have to give the most tepid, hedged, cucked defenses ever of them. It's so sad.
These people helped give us Trump, and that's why I have a problem, and because I only respect the people who own it. If you're Marjorie Taylor Greene, I was wrong about Trump, I was wrong about, fine, right? But if you're like acting, hey, how did this all happen? This war in Iran's bad, I can't believe they're doing it. Hey, it happened because you told people falsely that Trump would be anti-war.
So what's your point?
My point is, you asked me why I don't like them, I'm telling you why.
I don't know if Mehdi is aware of it, but this guy is lying. He's saying we should be strategic about their platforms. I don't know if Mehdi picked up on it later in this interview, but that guy agrees with most of what Tucker and Candace says. That's what's going on here. I'm not sure if Mehdi realizes it or not. Joan is requesting a continuance until they can depose you and Melina. Well, yeah, they also want an extension of discovery. Yeah, they have to. They have to kick it back. The thing is, the judge has to let them kick it back. This is what I'm saying. We can't go to trial in May. It's just not possible. The judge is either going to delay the trial by, I don't know what the standard continuance is, or he's going to rule favorably on my MSJ. That would be my imagination. But my legal team has no. They don't have any idea either, because they said they've never been in this position before either. I've never heard of going. I say I've never heard of. Like, I know fuck all about civil trials, but like, I don't know if you can go to trial without doing any depositions for either party. It's just stupid.
Into
This woman's husband is a huge NASCAR fan, obviously. Check out this collection. Cool or overkill? I like it myself. I'm sure it's going to be worth some serious dollars someday. This is a bot that's writing this, right? $3:27 in 4 minutes.
when they visit.
Jesus.
The driver from you go out the door and into his shop where he's got even more stuff. So that's above where we just were. And then when our kids were younger, so that's above where we just were. And then when our kids were younger, they loved to paint, so we've got all the cars on top of the toolboxes too. But when our kids were younger, they would paint.
Wait, hold up, what? Wait.
Into his shop where he's got even more stuff. So that's above where we just were.
Oh.
And then when our kids were in,
Listen.
and we got 24.
It's historical memorabilia, okay? What, you're not allowed to be a fan of history?
You know, to that point that Emily makes, Griff, about our neighbors, I was watching the press conference this morning and I hear them thanking the Gulf allies and I hear them thanking the military, and our incredible military did such phenomenal work. And just there was this list of outside actors beyond the United States. I didn't hear a lot about NATO.
No.
And then Mark Rutte is coming today, and we know there will be some tough conversations despite the camaraderie that the two have, because NATO did not step up in this.
No, and specifically Spain looking at you. I mean, they literally wouldn't let us overfly the bases that we pay for, and it's going to be a tough
Do you understand how dangerous, how far removed we are from reality right now? Like how stupid everything is. Like it feels dumb every day saying this over and over again. Like it's like you shit on your allies for months. for NATO for years. Like, what? Why are you surprised about this? This is the most obvious fucking thing ever.
Conversation with Ruta, because President Trump's now making it clear an option of ours is to pull out if indeed we're going to do that. After Trump, by the way, strengthened NATO more than any other previous president by getting him to pay their
Fucking God, it's just
their fair share. But, I want to come back to one thing you said, because out of that press conference, the message was pretty clear that the world's leading sponsor of terror, Iran, has been militarily effectively defeated. 80% of their air defenses are down. 90% of their weapons factories have been hit, according to Chairman Kaine. But you mentioned the 8 previous conflicts that Trump tackled. So Democrats are already saying that this is taco.
8 previous like what?
Trump always chickens out. Let me give you another acronym. Nacho never avoids confronting hard obstacles. And that's
Nacho.
exactly what President Trump did.
hungry.
He went in.
I know, we were like-
I made that up on my own.
That's pretty good.
Because I was thinking about the opposite of what that would be. He didn't chicken out. He's willing to confront what previous presidents for 47 years couldn't do to stand up to him. And look, let's be real. There is a lot of daylight between what Iran is saying in this negotiation and what they're coming to the table for and what we want. But one stands out, and that is the uranium. Nearly 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium. And it was made very clear at that press conference and from President Trump that they will never have it, whether we have to go in and take it or however we get it, another midnight hammer. And so that's going to be the real test of this new regime, whoever they are. And it looks like they've got remnants, obviously, of the previous one, since Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, is apparently the leader, even though he's in hiding and disfigured or injured. But at the end of the day, whether or not they come in the next 2 weeks, fighting or not fighting going on, and make a good faith effort on the uranium, this is going to look very different.
I mean, I'm like, all your erudite points about foreign policy, I'm still stuck on the taco for nacho. That was very, very good.
Never avoids confronting hard obstacles. That's what this
Good.
president has done in 15 months. There's nothing he's been afraid.
Since they are denying the 10-point plan, then what the fuck is the negotiation framework? What is the ceasefire? What have we agreed to? Has this been put out by either side? Like, LOL, this is entirely laughable to me.
Happy to break your silence about the lawsuit situation. Are you able to?
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not getting sued. I was never getting sued.
I guess that's where like the confusion is,
that-
because that, according to him, like you were about to fucking lose your house. You were back to the ropes.
Oh no.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that people, because I thought I made it pretty clear in my video that he hadn't sued me, but I guess because he continues to tell, because he sued those other people are assuming he sued me. But no, he just spent like 3 or 4 months kind of like harassing me and telling me he was going to take all my money and like make me poor and make me on the street begging or whatever. And
you could move in with me if that happens, by the way.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. Okay, I hope he sues me then. Fuck it. That'd be a party.
That'd be so sick.
Sorry to your girlfriend though. I'd be taking all her time.
It's all good, man. It's all good. She could sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I guess it's like, I kind of knew that you weren't getting sued, but it's obviously like, there was like, I can imagine, the Iranians have like a clock that says this is the amount of time until Israel is destroyed. In his house, he had like a 24-hour countdown. He was like, Noah Samson, retract your video. And it wasn't just like a little bit of like, oh, you're getting sued. I remember like a huge amount of podcast episodes and also a fucking like moot.
Why is he lying about it? Well, this was apparently a while ago, I guess. Would be my guess.
Up to a point. I mean, I think some of those conversations are useful, and I keep looking for the ones that I think will be useful. I mean, I think there is generally greater utility in when there's something to learn about an issue or something to figure out, bringing on someone who really knows their stuff and just helping me learn more in real time in front of my audience. So I'm thinking about the consequences of Trumpism and having Trump for a second term, and just the way the rest of the world perceives us, and the loss of American leadership, and et cetera, all of that. If I bring on someone who I know I'm going to agree with, but who just knows much more about certain details than I do, I bring on someone like Ann Applebaum, right, who can just give me the view from the other side of the world with much more historical context, and who's just deep in the weeds on the way propaganda works, and the way democracies unravel, and all the relevant historical analogies, right? So I'm not going to
Arafji, I don't know how to pronounce his name, said in a statement that while Washington had accepted the general framework of Iran's 10-point proposal as a basis for negotiations, Iran was in turn considering a 15-point proposal from the U.S. The full details of the 15-point U.S. plan have not been published, but it is believed to include Iran committing to no nukes, handing over its highly enriched uranium, limits on Tehran's defense capabilities, an end to regional proxy groups, and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Other points on the table include an acknowledgement of Israel's right to exist, the two regional sources said. Iran had previously rejected the 15-point plan, with one official describing the demands as largely excessive, unrealistic, and unreasonable on Monday, despite Trump claiming in late March that Tehran had agreed to most of the points. While the White House has not detailed what Iran's 10-point proposal consists of, Iran's Supreme National Security Council laid out key parts of the plan. Okay, so we just have no idea. No fucking clue.
Agree with Ann about much, if anything, but that's not the point. The point is to hear what she has to say and to learn a little bit more each time I do that. I think that's usually more useful than me getting some person on who stridently disagrees with a position I already have, and I just know going into it that it's just going to be an exercise in my attempting to showcase their errors, which I already understand to be errors, right? So someone who doesn't really understand jihadism at all and doesn't believe in it and thinks it's all economics and politics and bluffing, okay, I can get that person on for another 2-hour round of brain damage, but it really is just brain damage, right? Now, it's not to say that it's not going to be useful for some people in the audience to see me hit those pitches again and again, but I've done it so many times, I'm not sure about the value of continuing to do it, and it also runs the risk of being confusing to some people anyway, because certain moves are reliably confusing, right?
Well, I think people like the conversations you're having. I think it feels as though you've been just avoiding the chance of having a bad conversation, and they feel that many of them
I just
can
don't
learn.
see, who are we talking about? I mean, I'm going to talk to someone like Hassan Piker. Would that be fun? No, not really. I mean, I don't think anyone should be listening to this guy, right? So it's like, it just seems like.
Well, that's a different point. I think what they're saying is there are bad conversations that they're constantly having.
One is Sam Harris, the other is his producer guy.
And they can still learn how to have a good conversation and a bad conversation, or how to navigate a bad conversation. And with you lately just saying, fuck it, I'm not going to have bad conversations.
But this guy is way too handsome. Holy shit.
He reminds me of a doctor in fucking The Pit.
I would never, ever do a video podcast with this guy. What the fuck? Jesus.
That's why I don't do any with you, Steve. Because,
Thanks. My God.
A good conversation and a bad conversation, or how to navigate a bad conversation. And with you lately just saying, fuck it, I'm not going to have bad conversations anymore because it's just not the best use of my time, or I'm not going to spend 2 hours on this. I think that a lot of people are saying, well, even from those bad conversations, I don't think they mean the Omar Aziz conversation.
Well, I mean, so I'm going to talk to Ben Shapiro. I anticipate that being
Sam Harris is a good looking guy too, though.
Yeah, he is. But this guy is just like distractingly handsome.
He's beautiful.
Potentially bad conversation, at least for half of it. I mean, half of it we'll agree about certain things, but part of it will be exposing a fair amount of daylight between us around Trump and current American politics. So I'm going to go into that thinking we both might get somewhat uptight in this conversation, at least for part of it. And I'm not avoiding it. I think it's useful because Ben is a serious enough person with a big enough audience that it's useful to try to kind of make some sense in his direction. Would I talk to Candace Owens? I don't think so. Right? I mean, she's got an even larger audience, but she's a total lunatic, right? And I'm not sure. I mean, I could approach it the way I approached the conversation with Doug Wilson, the pastor, who I knew just how far out he was as a fundamentalist, but I approached that differently than I might have. I mean, I was not looking for conflict. In that case, I trusted my audience to understand what's wrong with a pastor who will sign off on maybe one day bringing chattel slavery back because it's in the Bible, right? So that's obvious enough that I can I don't have to dunk on that point. I don't have to say, oh, well, I just hope it's clear that I'm against chattel slavery. I mean, so it's not. You can just be more of an anthropologist there rather than somebody who's going to dig in and really have a debate. Right, my conversation with Ross Douthat, right? We did not agree. That had the quality of a debate about religion. I think he's.
I mean, this is a nice way. Is he trying to say he doesn't think he can do a good enough job at
No, he's just saying he doesn't think it's worth it.
Oh, okay.
A religious extremist than people appreciate, and I feel some of that came out in our conversation. I mean, he's surprisingly extreme in his claims to in his faith claims, given that he's also trying to function as a normal journalist at the New York Times. But so those are not totally. Those are somewhat adversarial conversations, but they're not. To talk to someone like, I don't know. Again, I just brought up Hassan Piker at random. Someone like him. I mean, he's just kind of a performance artist. I mean, he's a deeply confused, I think, fairly amoral, fairly juvenile person in his ethics. Right? I mean, he's a bit of a nutcase, and dishonest, and so it's such a mess. I mean, there's so much bad faith that you have to anticipate going into a conversation like that. My first question is, why do it? I mean, because it can stand the chance of being genuinely confusing, certainly to anyone who's sort of in his audience, right? Because there's just so much. It's asymmetric warfare. It's so much easier to make a mess than to clean it up, right? That's why I wouldn't talk to someone like RFK Jr. I mean, RFK Jr. is
really
basically a nutcase, right? I mean, there's something wrong with the guy. He's a confabulatory. He's a liar, absolutely a liar. But he's also a kind of a confabulator, right? He's a bullshit artist, and also I just think a little crazy, right? So you're dealing with all of that. It's very hard to do in real time. Again, for the kinds of things he's crazy about, what you want is someone who's deep in the weeds on the science of vaccines and immunology and just virology and all of it, right? So I'm the wrong guy to have that conversation. I've always said that. It's not to say I couldn't take a month of my life and get up to speed on some of that, but it's just not worth a month of my life to do that. So all of it is just at this point you have to have a life is too short module in your brain and consult it occasionally. And for many of these conversations that people seem to want me to have, I have to say life is too short for many of them. And it's not to say, I mean, given the right candidate, I might jump at the chance. Again, I mean, so the Monk debates, I think they asked me to debate Tucker Carlson, and I was surprised to find myself saying yes without any reservation, really, because Tucker has become such a fixture in our politics. But that seems to have evaporated. So I don't know what happened there. I'm sure he said no. But so I would do that. I would do something like that. But it really has to be worth it.
Yeah. Well, Rogan has said he doesn't want to talk to you publicly until you've debated Brett Weinstein. Is that something you consider doing?
Oh, well, no. I mean, for the same reasons I wouldn't debate RFK Jr.
Fuck, I would do Brett. Oh my God.
It's very disconcerting
that guy.
Not to know whether someone has.
He's just that fucking loser. It would be on vaccines and COVID, but he's just the guy who's like, he was the guy who got harassed at Evergreen College. Like, he was probably in the right there, but then it just brain broke him forever. If you saw a video of him, you would recognize him.
I'd know him. Okay.
Just lost their mind, right? Like, because when you look at someone like Brett speak, he just seems to be the picture of reasonableness, right? He's not getting blown around by his emotional life, or certainly not in any obvious way when he's certainly not on a podcast with Rogan. So he's not an Alex Jones like character where you look at the way he's delivering the lines and you think, okay, this is a kind of a case study in chemical imbalance or something, right? Like what we need is a psychopharmacologist before anything else happens here, so that we can try to get this guy back to some physiological baseline. That's not happening with Brett at all, and yet the things he says are equivalently crazy, and the certitude with which he says them, it's totally indefensible, right? So I mean, you take his recent appearance on Rogan and you stick his claims into any LLM, and what you get is just a litany of obvious errors. And I did that for Joe. I sent him a link to my ChatGPT session. Like, Joe, just here's a sanity check. Listen to what the robots say about what Brett was giving you on this most recent podcast. And he didn't seem to want to do that. So he's still convinced that Brett was right about everything, though Brett thinks that 17 million people were killed outright by the vaccines, and that ivermectin is still worth taking. I don't know how to interact with that, but what it requires is, if it were going to be done at all, I mean, Brett is just Brett is not someone to take seriously on this topic. But if you were forced to take him seriously because he's made so much noise about it, what you want is someone who's deeper in the weeds on the relevant science than either of us are, and let that guy or gal have the debate. And that's what I urged Joe to do. I mean, Joe was wrong there. I wasn't urging that I talk about do a postmortem on COVID about RFK Jr. or Brett or anyone else, any other lunatic he's had on his podcast. I was urging that he have the relevant experts do it. Right? I mean, it's just not it's not my wheelhouse, right? It should I'm not going to, unlike many of these guys, I'm not going to pretend it's my wheelhouse, knowing that I can be a quick study and
oh my God,
sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. You want to be all three of those things,
like everyone else on the internet.
Yeah. To have this conversation responsibly, but I know enough of what mainstream science thinks about what happened during COVID to know that Brett doesn't make any sense on this topic.
Yeah. Another question while we're on Rogan. You've been critical of Rogan's irresponsibility in the spread of misinformation, but he's taken basically the same approach since he was bullshitting stoned in his living room with an audience of a few thousand. Not his fault. His audience has become huge. Isn't the real problem that the epistemic institutions have trashed their credibility and the audience is lacking discernment?
Well, it's both, but I think I sent you this clip of that the algorithm served me of Joe talking to Theo Vaughn, and Theo was just kind of melting down around his anxiety about everything, it seemed. super worried about the war in Iran and you know, worried about Israel, I guess. I mean, I forget about some of the specifics of the clip, but they went on for like 10 minutes, kind of casting doubt on everything, and then they seemed to have a lot of time for some CIA conspiracy theory, which you know was getting delivered to them on what looked like a short YouTube clip or a TikTok video by someone they liked, and it was probably a rehash of MK Ultra or some old story about the CIA putting LSD in the water, or something they did in the 1950s or something. But it was
which they need to do again now.
Yeah, but it was a completely paranoid story about the CIA trying to make us all dumb so we will be more bovine and compliant. I mean, the image I got is just of two kind of pyromaniacs just lighting matches, on a landscape that they had spent years soaking in gasoline, right? It's like I mean, and this really is it's relevant how large the audience is for this. It's relevant just how much cultural damage is being done every time these guys basically play the just asking questions routine on socially combustible topics with tens of millions of people listening, right? It's completely irresponsible. It is genuinely dangerous. It's genuinely corrosive of our culture. It's genuinely misleading of their audience. And because they're not journalists, they feel no responsibility to get their facts straight. They certainly don't correct their errors. And I mean, they don't have the mechanism by which to correct their errors. It's just not.
They'll even admit that this might be some tinfoil.
Yeah, I think Theo said that in the middle of this clip. Yeah, like this might be tinfoil hat time, but still, they're still just flicking matches at everything, right? And the worst thing about all of this is their addiction to a conspiratorial framing of everything, right? That is if you could extract any lesson from what's happened to our politics in the last decade, and the role that people like Rogan have played in the unraveling of everything, and the way in which social media has weaponized all this, and the rise of people like Tucker and Candace and Nick Fuentes, and the fact that we've got Trump a second time around, and central to all of it is this addiction to conspiracy thinking and contrarianism, and just this what I've called the pornography of doubt, right? And Joe has been as addicted as anyone and has brought it to scale perhaps more than anyone. And it is just it's totally unprincipled. It is genuinely confusing to millions of people. I mean, you got young people getting raised on a diet of this bullshit. It's divisive. It amplifies the worst in us, right? And it's just and it's undermining of yes, our institutions have done something to lose credibility, right? They have become politicized in ways that they shouldn't have become politicized. Yes, all that's true. The remedy for that is not a torrents of bullshit from podcasts and the platforming of proper lunatics and people who think they were denied the Nobel Prize when they have almost no scientific reputations to protect. No, the remedy is more good science and good journalism and real intellectual integrity and holding institutions to account in serious ways, not spreading lies and half-truths and cockamamie conspiracy theories. And I mean, really, like you look at that clip of Joe and Theo, who are both good guys. I mean, the paradox here for me ethically is that what I'm talking about is a species of evil, right? Given its consequences, it's a species of evil, right? It is like at the top of the list of what ails us in our society. It is the thing that is preventing us from solving real problems in this world. There's no question it is getting people killed and will continue to get people killed, right? It is absolutely toxic, and yet many of the people participating in this are just good guys who are just having fun, who are just entertaining. They think there's no stakes, right? They're just like athletes, right? They're just having fun. They're just playing a game. Joe's just playing a game, right? But it's a game with real consequences, right? It's like how would you play tennis if you knew that every time you lost a point, people would die, right? I mean, like that's the kind of game that's being played with information now. And so people like Joe and Elon and people who have audiences in the tens and even hundreds of millions have a real responsibility to get their heads out of their asses, and they're not showing any aptitude for doing that.
Wow. Okay.
Do you think Joe Rogan feels like he's getting it right?
I don't know. Maybe. Oh, good tweet. I can't even say. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say. I have no idea.
That's okay. Yeah.
Jesus.
How Trump Took the U.S. to War with Iran. This article is by Jonathan Swan and Maggie Haberman and read by an automated voice. The black SUV carrying Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
They can't. It's the New York Times. They can't pay somebody to read this, really. Okay.
Netanyahu arrived at the White House just before 11 a.m. on February 11th. The Israeli leader, who had been pressing for months for the United States to agree to a major assault on Iran, was whisked inside with little ceremony, out of view of reporters, primed for one of the most high-stakes moments in his long career. U.S. and Israeli officials gathered first in the cabinet room adjacent to the Oval Office. Then Mr. Netanyahu headed downstairs for the main event, a highly classified presentation on Iran for President Trump and his team in the White House Situation Room, which was rarely used for in-person meetings with foreign leaders. Mr. Trump sat down, but not in his usual position at the head of the room's mahogany conference table. Instead, the president took a seat on one side, facing the large screens mounted along the wall. Mr. Netanyahu sat on the other side, directly opposite the president. Appearing on the screen behind the Prime Minister was David Bernea, the director of Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency, as well as Israeli military officials. Arrayed visually behind Mr. Netanyahu, they created the image of a wartime leader surrounded by his team. Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, sat at the far end of the table. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who doubled as the National Security Advisor, had taken his regular seat. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who generally sat together in such settings, were on one side. Joining them was John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, and Steve Witkoff, Mr. Trump's special envoy who had been negotiating with the Iranians, rounded out the main group. The gathering had been kept deliberately small to guard against leaks. Other top cabinet secretaries had no idea it was happening. Also absent was the vice president. J.D. Vance was in Azerbaijan, and the meeting had been scheduled on such short notice that he was unable to make it back in time. The presentation that Mr. Netanyahu would make over the next hour would be pivotal in setting the United States and Israel on the path toward a major armed conflict in the middle of one of the world's most volatile regions. And it would lead to a series of discussions inside the White House over the following days and weeks, the details of which have not been previously reported, in which Mr. Trump weighed his options and the risks before giving the go-ahead to join Israel in attacking Iran. This account of how Mr. Trump took the United States into war is drawn from reporting for a forthcoming book, Regime Change, Inside the Imperial Presidency of Donald Trump. It reveals how the deliberations inside the administration highlighted the president's instincts, his inner circle's fractures, and the way he runs the White House. It draws on extensive interviews conducted on the condition of anonymity to recount internal discussions and sensitive issues. The reporting underscores how closely Mr. Trump's hawkish thinking aligned with Mr. Netanyahu's over many months, more so than even some of the president's key advisors recognized. Their close association has been an enduring feature across two administrations, and that dynamic, however fraught at times, has fueled intense criticism and suspicion on both the left and the right of American politics. And it shows how, in the end, even the more skeptical members of Mr. Trump's war cabinet, with the stark exception of Mr. Vance, the figure inside the White House most opposed to a full-scale war, deferred to the president's instincts, including his abundant confidence that the war would be quick and decisive. The White House declined to comment. In the Situation Room on February 11th, Mr. Netanyahu made a hard sell, suggesting that Iran was ripe for regime change and expressing the belief that a joint U.S.-Israeli mission could finally bring an end to the Islamic Republic. At one point, the Israelis played for Mr. Trump a brief video that included a montage of potential new leaders who could take over the country if the hardline government fell. Among those featured was Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, now a Washington-based dissident who had tried to position himself as a secular leader who could shepherd Iran toward a post-theocratic government. Mr. Netanyahu and his team outlined conditions they portrayed as pointing to near-certain victory. Iran's ballistic missile program could be destroyed in a few weeks. The regime would be so weakened that it could not choke off the Strait of Hormuz, and the likelihood that Iran would land blows against U.S. interests in neighboring countries was assessed as minimal. Besides, Mossad's intelligence indicated that street protests inside Iran would begin again, and with the impetus of the Israeli spy agency helping to foment riots and rebellion, an intense bombing campaign could foster the conditions for the Iranian opposition to overthrow the regime. The Israelis also raised the prospect of Iranian Kurdish fighters crossing the border from Iraq to open a ground front in the northwest, further stretching the regime's forces and accelerating its collapse. Mr. Netanyahu delivered his presentation in a confident monotone. It seemed to land well with the most important person in the room, the American president. Sounds good to me, Mr. Trump told the prime minister. To Mr. Netanyahu, this signaled a likely green light for a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. Mr. Netanyahu was not the only one who came away from the meeting with the impression that Mr. Trump had all but made up his mind. The president's advisors could see that he had been deeply impressed by the promise of what Mr. Netanyahu's military and intelligence services could do, just as he had been when the two men spoke before the 12-day war with Iran in June. Earlier in his White House visit on February 11th, Mr. Netanyahu had tried to focus the minds of the Americans assembled in the cabinet room on the existential threat posed by Iran's 86-year-old supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. When others in the room asked the prime minister about possible risks in the operation, Mr. Netanyahu acknowledged these but made one central point. In his view, the risks of inaction were greater than the risks of action. He argued that the price of action would only grow if they delayed striking and allowed Iran more time to accelerate its missile production and create a shield of immunity around its nuclear program. Everyone in the room understood that Iran had the capacity to build up its missile and drone stockpiles at a far lower cost and much more quickly than the United States could build and supply the much more expensive interceptors to protect American interests and allies in the region. Mr. Netanyahu's presentations and Mr. Trump's positive response to them created an urgent task for the U.S. intelligence community. Overnight, analysts worked to assess the viability of what the Israeli team had told the president. Farcical. The results of the U.S. intelligence analysis were shared the following day, February 12th, in another meeting for only American officials in the Situation Room. Before Mr. Trump arrived, two senior intelligence officials briefed the president's inner circle. The intelligence officials had deep expertise in U.S. military capabilities, and they knew the Iranian system and its players inside out. They had broken down Mr. Netanyahu's
Wait, did they say... Oh, this is on February 11th. So this was about 2 months ago.
Presentation into 4 parts. First was decapitation, killing the Ayatollah. Second was crippling Iran's capacity to project power and threaten its neighbors. Third was a popular uprising inside Iran. And fourth was regime change, with a secular leader installed to govern the country. The U.S. officials assessed that the first 2 objectives were achievable with American intelligence and military power. They assessed that the third and fourth parts of Mr. Netanyahu's pitch, which included the possibility of the Kurds mounting a ground invasion of Iran, were detached from reality. When Mr. Trump joined the meeting, project power and threaten its neighbors. Third was a popular uprising inside Iran. And fourth was regime change, with a secular leader installed to govern the country. The U.S. officials assessed that the first 2 objectives were achievable with American intelligence and military power. They assessed that the third and fourth parts of Mr. Netanyahu's pitch, which included the possibility of the Kurds mounting a ground invasion of Iran, were detached from reality. When Mr. Trump joined the meeting, Mr. Ratcliffe briefed him on the assessment. The CIA director used one word to describe the Israeli Prime Minister's regime change scenarios: farcical. At that point, Mr. Rubio cut in. In other words, it's bullshit, he said. Mr. Ratcliffe added that given the unpredictability of events in any conflict, regime change could happen, but it should not be considered an achievable objective. Several others jumped in, including Mr. Vance, just back from Azerbaijan, who also expressed strong skepticism about the prospect of regime change. The president then turned to General Kane. General, what do you think? General Kane replied, Sir, this is, in my experience, standard operating procedure for the Israelis. They oversell, and their plans are not always well developed. They know they need us, and that's why they're hard selling. Mr. Trump quickly weighed the assessment. Regime change, he said, would be their problem. It was unclear whether he was referring to the Israelis or the Iranian people. But the bottom line was that his decision on whether to go to war against Iran would not hinge on whether parts 3 and 4 of Mr. Netanyahu's presentation were achievable. Mr. Trump appeared to remain very interested in accomplishing parts 1 and 2, killing the Ayatollah and Iran's top leaders and dismantling the Iranian military. General Kane, the man Mr. Trump liked to refer to as Razan Kane, had impressed the president years earlier by telling him the Islamic State could be defeated far more quickly than others had projected. Mr. Trump rewarded that confidence by elevating the general, who had been an Air Force fighter pilot, to be his top military advisor. General Kane was not a political loyalist, and he had serious concerns about a war with Iran, but he was very cautious in the way he presented his views to the president. As the small team of advisors who were looped into the plans deliberated over the following days, General Kane shared with Mr. Trump and others the alarming military assessment that a major campaign against Iran would drastically deplete stockpiles of American weaponry, including missile interceptors, whose supply had been strained after years of support for Ukraine and Israel. General Kane saw no clear path to quickly replenishing these stockpiles. He also flagged the enormous difficulty of securing the Strait of Hormuz and the risks of Iran blocking it. Mr. Trump had dismissed that possibility on the assumption that the regime would capitulate before it came to that. The president appeared to think it would be a very quick war, an impression that had been reinforced by the tepid response to the U.S. bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities in June. General Kane's role in the lead-up to the war captured a classic tension between military council and presidential decision-making. So persistent was the chairman in not taking a stand, repeating that it was not his role to tell the president what to do, but rather to present options, along with potential risks and possible second- and third-order consequences, that he could appear to some of those listening to be arguing all sides of an issue simultaneously. He would constantly ask, "And then what?" But Mr. Trump would often seem to hear only what he wanted to hear. General Kane differed in almost every way from a prior chairman, General Mark A. Milley, who had argued vociferously with Mr. Trump during his first administration, and who saw his role as stopping the president from taking dangerous or reckless actions. One person familiar with their interactions noted that Mr. Trump had a habit of confusing tactical advice from General Kane with strategic counsel. In practice, that meant the general might warn in one breath about the difficulties of one aspect of the operation, then in the next note that the United States had an essentially unlimited supply of cheap, precision-guided bombs and could strike Iran for weeks once it achieved air superiority. To the chairman, these were separate observations, but Mr. Trump appeared to think that the second most likely canceled out the first. At no point during the deliberations did the chairman directly tell the president that war with Iran was a terrible idea, though some of General Kane's colleagues believed that was exactly what he thought. Trump the Hawk. Distrusted as Mr. Netanyahu was by many of the president's advisors, the prime minister's view of the situation was far closer to Mr. Trump's opinion than the anti-interventionists on the Trump team or in the broader America First movement like to admit. This had been true for many years. Of all the foreign policy challenges Mr. Trump had confronted across two presidencies, Iran stood apart. He regarded it as a uniquely dangerous adversary and was willing to take great risks to hinder the regime's ability to wage war or to acquire a nuclear weapon. Furthermore, Mr. Netanyahu's pitch had dovetailed with Mr. Trump's desire to dismantle the Iranian theocracy, which had seized power in 1979 when Mr. Trump was 32. It had been a thorn in the side of the United States ever since. Now, he could become the first president since the clerical leadership took over 47 years ago to pull off regime change in Iran. Usually unmentioned, but always in the background, was the added motivation that Iran had plotted to kill Mr. Trump as revenge over the assassination in January 2020 of General Qasem Soleimani, who was seen in the United States as a driving force behind an Iranian campaign of international terrorism. Back in office for a second term, Mr. Trump's confidence in the U.S. military's abilities had only grown. He was especially emboldened by the spectacular commando raid to capture the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, from his compound on January 3rd. No American lives were lost in the operation, yet more evidence to the president of the unmatched prowess of U.S. forces. Within the cabinet, Mr. Hegseth was the biggest proponent of a military campaign against Iran. Mr. Rubio indicated to colleagues that he was much more ambivalent. He did not believe the Iranians would agree to a negotiated deal, but his preference was to continue a campaign of maximum pressure rather than start a full-scale war. Mr. Rubio, however, did not try to talk Mr. Trump out of the operation, and after the war began, he delivered the administration's justification with full conviction. Ms. Wiles had concerns about what a new conflict overseas could entail, but she did not tend to weigh in hard on military matters in larger meetings. Rather, she encouraged advisors to share their views and concerns with the president in those settings. Ms. Wiles would exert influence on many other issues, but in the room with Mr. Trump and the generals, she sat back. Those close to her said she did not view it as her role to share her concerns with the president on a military decision in front of others, and she believed that the expertise of advisors like General Kane, Mr. Ratcliffe, and Mr. Rubio was more significant for the president to hear. Still, Ms. Wiles had told colleagues that she worried about the United States being dragged into another war in the Middle East. An attack on Iran carried with it the potential to set off soaring gas prices months before midterm elections that could help decide whether the final 2 years of Mr. Trump's second term would be years of accomplishment or subpoenas from House Democrats. But in the end, Ms. Wiles was on board with the operation. Vance the skeptic. Nobody in Mr. Trump's inner circle was more worried about the prospect of war with Iran, or did more to try to stop it, than the vice president. Mr. Vance had built his political career opposing precisely the kind of military adventurism that was now under serious consideration. He had described a war with Iran as a huge distraction of resources.
Oh, okay. Now I see why people are saying that Vance was a leaker for this.
Yep.
And massively expensive. He was not, however, a dove across the board. In January, when Mr. Trump publicly warned Iran to stop killing protesters and promised that help was on its way, Mr. Vance had privately encouraged the president to enforce his red line. But what the vice president pushed for was a limited, punitive strike, something closer to the model of Mr. Trump's missile attack against Syria in 2017 over the use of chemical weapons against civilians. The vice president thought a regime change war with Iran would be a disaster. His preference was for no strikes at all. But knowing that Mr. Trump was likely to intervene in some fashion, he tried to steer toward more limited action. Later, when it seemed certain that the president was set on a large-scale campaign, Mr. Vance argued that he should do so with overwhelming force in the hope of achieving his objectives quickly. In front of his colleagues, Mr. Vance warned Mr. Trump that a war against Iran could cause regional chaos and untold numbers of casualties. It could also break apart Mr. Trump's political coalition and would be seen as a betrayal by many voters who had bought into the promise of no new wars. Mr. Vance raised other concerns, too. As vice president, he was aware of the scope of America's munitions problem. A war against a regime with enormous will for survival could leave the United States in a far worse position to fight conflicts for some years. The vice president told associates that no amount of military insight could truly gauge what Iran would do in retaliation when survival of the regime was at stake. A war could easily go in unpredictable directions. Moreover, he thought there seemed to be little chance of building a peaceful Iran in the aftermath. Beyond all of this was perhaps the biggest risk of all. Iran held the advantage when it came to the Strait of Hormuz. If this narrow waterway carrying vast quantities of oil and natural gas was choked off, the domestic consequences in the United States would be severe, starting with higher gasoline prices. Tucker Carlson, the commentator who had emerged as another prominent skeptic of intervention on the right, had come to the Oval Office several times over the previous year to warn Mr. Trump that a war with Iran would destroy his presidency. A couple weeks before the war began, Mr. Trump, who had known Mr. Carlson for years, tried to reassure him over the phone. "I know you're worried about it, but it's going to be okay," the president said. Mr. Carlson asked how he knew. "Because it always is," Mr. Trump replied. In the final days of February, the Americans and the Israelis discussed a piece of new intelligence that would significantly accelerate their timeline. The Ayatollah would be meeting above ground with other top officials of the regime, in broad daylight and wide open for an air attack. It was a fleeting chance to strike at the heart of Iran's leadership, the kind of target that might not present itself again. Mr. Trump gave Iran another chance to come to a deal that would block its path to nuclear weapons. The diplomacy also gave the United States extra time to move military assets to the Middle East. The president had effectively made up his mind weeks earlier, several of his advisors said, but he had not yet decided exactly when. Now, Mr. Netanyahu urged him to move fast. That same week, Mr. Kushner and Mr. Witkoff called from Geneva after the latest talks with Iranian officials. Over 3 rounds of negotiations in Oman and Switzerland, the two had tested Iran's willingness to make a deal. At one point, they offered the Iranians free nuclear fuel for the life of their program, a test of whether Tehran's insistence on enrichment was truly about civilian energy or about preserving the ability to build a bomb. The Iranians rejected the offer, calling it an assault on their dignity. Mr. Kushner and Mr. Witkoff laid out the picture for the president. They could probably negotiate something, but it would take months, they said. If Mr. Trump was asking whether they could look him in the eye and tell him they could solve the problem, it was going to take a lot to get there. Mr. Kushner told him because the Iranians were playing games. I think we need to do it. On Thursday, February 26th, around 5 p.m., a final Situation Room meeting got underway. By now, the positions of everyone in the room were clear. Everything had been discussed in previous meetings. Everyone knew everyone else's stance. The discussion would last about an hour and a half. Mr. Trump was in his usual place at the head of the table. To his right sat the vice president. Next to Mr. Vance was Ms. Wiles, then Mr. Ratcliffe, then the White House counsel David Warrington, then Stephen Chung, the White House communications director. Across from Mr. Chung was Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. To her right was General Kane, then Mr. Hegseth and Mr. Rubio. The war planning group had been kept so tight that the two key officials who would need to manage the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Energy Secretary Chris Wright, were excluded, as was Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence. The president opened the meeting asking, "Okay, what have we got?" Mr. Hegseth, Secretary, we need to do it.
How?
On Thursday, February 26th, around 5 p.m., a final Situation Room meeting got underway. By now, the positions of everyone in the room were clear. Everything had been discussed in previous meetings. Everyone knew everyone else's stance. The discussion would last about an hour and a half. Mr. Trump was in his usual place at the head of the table. To his right sat the vice president. Next to Mr. Vance was Ms. Wiles, then Mr. Ratcliffe, then the White House counsel David Warrington, then Stephen Chung, the White House communications director. Across from Mr. Chung was Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. To her right was General Kane, then Mr. Hegseth and Mr. Rubio. The war planning group had been kept so tight that the two key officials who would need to manage the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Energy Secretary Chris Wright, were excluded, as was Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence. The president opened the meeting asking, "Okay, what have we got?" Mr. Hegseth and Mr. Kane ran through the sequencing of the attacks. Then Mr. Trump said he wanted to go around the table and hear everyone's views. Mr. Vance, whose disagreement with the whole premise was well established, addressed the president. "You know, I think this is a bad idea, but if you want to do it, I'll support you." Ms. Wiles told Mr. Trump that if he felt he needed to proceed for America's national security, then he should go ahead. Mr. Ratcliffe offered no opinion on whether to proceed, but he discussed the stunning new intelligence that the Iranian leadership was about to gather in the Ayatollah's compound in Tehran. The CIA director told the president that regime change was possible depending on how the term was defined. "If we just mean killing the supreme leader, we can probably do that," he said. When called on, Mr. Warrington, the White House counsel, said it was a legally permissible option in terms of how the plan had been conceived by U.S. officials and presented to the president. He did not offer a personal opinion, but when pressed by the president to provide one, he said that as a Marine veteran, he had known an American service member killed by Iran years earlier. This issue remained deeply personal. He told the president that if Israel intended to proceed regardless, the United States should do so as well. Mr. Chung laid out the likely public relations fallout. Mr. Trump had run for office opposed to further wars. People had not voted for conflict overseas. The plans ran contrary to everything the administration had said after the bombing campaign against Iran in June. How would they explain away 8 months of insisting that Iranian nuclear facilities had been totally obliterated? Mr. Chung gave neither a yes nor a no, but he said that whatever decision Mr. Trump made would be the right one.
Triple S.
Ms. Levitt told the president that this was his decision and that the press team would manage it as best they could. Mr. Hegseth adopted a narrow position. They would have to take care of the Iranians eventually, so they might as well do it now. He offered technical assessments. They could run the campaign in a certain amount of time with a given level of forces. General Kane was sober, laying out the risks and what the campaign would mean for munitions depletion. He offered no opinion. His position was that if Mr. Trump ordered the operation, the military would execute. Both of the president's top military leaders previewed how the campaign would unfold and the U.S. capacity to degrade Iran's military capabilities. When it was his turn to speak, Mr. Rubio offered more clarity, telling the president, if our goal is regime change or an uprising, we shouldn't do it. But if the goal is to destroy Iran's missile program, that's a goal we can achieve. Everyone deferred to the president's instincts. They had seen him make bold decisions, take on unfathomable risks, and somehow come out on top. No one would impede him now. I think we need to do it, the president told the room. He said they had to make sure Iran could not have a nuclear weapon, and they had to ensure that Iran could not just shoot missiles at Israel or throughout the region. General Kane told Mr. Trump that he had some time. He did not need to give the go-ahead until 4 p.m. the following day. Aboard Air Force One the next afternoon, 22 minutes before General Kane's deadline, Mr. Trump sent the following order. Operation Epic Fury is approved. No aborts. Good luck.
Shrimple-as.
Shrimple fucking...
So who do you think in the room did it?
As... I mean, it's super, super, super favorable to JD Vance,
That's what I was
right?
thinking, yeah.
I can't believe that, like, everything about this is the worst case scenario of having, like, being surrounded by yes men. Like, nobody here apparently has the bravery to tell Trump, like, hey, bro, you need to calm the fuck down. This is a really fucking bad idea. Not a single fucking person, really.
I mean, weirdly enough, only JD Vance had any sort of pushback, it felt like, and it wasn't even a strong one.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, sometimes you just gotta shrimple eyes, you know?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Jesus.
And that's why you'll have 5-6 times a day. And, oh, we won. It's over. No, it's going to go on forever. Total destruction. I'll never let them have the Strait. Yes, we're giving up the Strait. I'm getting out of NATO. We're staying in NATO. And when you know people in early dementia, that is exactly what they do. And so I think we're dealing with the madness of King George III here.
You know shit's fucked when Alex Jones.
And that's why you'll have 5-6 times a day.
True. Not good. That's your guy. That's your man's.
That's my that's my current understanding is that 3 and 4 are going to be. Well, maybe they're just thinking about doing. I thought they were going to do. When I talked to Jared last time, he was talking about doing 3 and 4 as a Leo test. And 5 would be the lunar landing. Maybe it just hasn't been announced yet. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm making news for you guys here at the. That's my current understanding is that.
Mark Calendar podcast claims that Jared Isaacman told him that Artemis 3 and 4 would be low Earth orbit missions. Hopefully, this is a misunderstanding. Having 2 orbital missions will delay things a lot. Okay.
Delay things on what?
Going to the moon. This was 8 minutes.
introduction. Thank you so much for that, and good morning to all of you, and good morning, ambassadors. I see so many here, so many friends. Matt Whitaker is here, ambassador of the United States to NATO, my good friend. So many other faces I know so well, so we are really among friends this morning. And it is a pleasure to be back in the United States, and particularly to be back here in Washington, D.C. And yes, I'm an admirer of the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. And I'm particularly honored to be here today at the Reagan Institute. If peace is to have a chance, if the hope for freedom is to be kept alive, the United States must play a powerful and active role in world affairs. When President Reagan offered those words at a gathering of the Reserve Officers Association on January 27, 1988, the world was a very different place. The Berlin Wall still held people's hopes and dreams captive. More than 100 million men, women and children lived in European countries behind an iron curtain. Those differences notwithstanding, what President Reagan knew then and what I know today is quite simple. American leadership is absolutely essential if freedom is to be the rule and not the exception. As Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and now as Secretary General of NATO, I have developed an unflinching appreciation for the value of American leadership. And yes, I was raised with Ronald Reagan. He was my youth time president, and I still remember how important he was for so many people in Europe. Because in the end, under Bush, his successor, the Cold War ended. It ended by winning it. And it was won by Reagan and, can I add, Mehdi Hasan. And the two of them working in conjunction, making the whole world safer and ending the Cold War. And I think everybody in Europe and everybody in the world should be eternally grateful to that leadership. But I've also had the opportunity to reflect on what happens when America's allies take that leadership, that US leadership, for granted. In the years following President Reagan's address to those reserve officers, as we entered the so-called end of history, while those newly free sought to pass into NATO and began to build their own capacities to contribute to our shared security, other European allies shifted away from decades of investing in conventional military partnership with the United States during the Cold War in favor of an unhealthy codependence. So convinced that peace was permanent and didn't demand the investment we now know is essential, Western European forces shrank and defense budgets shriveled into irrelevance. Over-reliance on the notion that security was just the new norm, and the United States would take care of any threats further afield, caused us Europeans to imagine that hard power was something to be embarrassed by, a relic of a bellicose past that humankind had now outgrown. But recent years have made abundantly clear that history is alive and kicking. That while Europe may not think in spheres of influence, countries like Russia certainly do. And we have seen that Putin is all too willing to use force to press the point. Thankfully, though, the same American leadership that set the conditions for staring down an evil empire has helped keep the alliance, an alliance that ensured freedom and security during the Cold War, that alliance going, retaining the foundations and tools we need, even while many of its allies underinvested. President Trump's commitment to progress reversed more than a generation of stagnation and atrophy by reminding Europe that values must be backed by hard power. Hard power provided not only by the United States, but through the collective effort of countries who are part of the most successful military alliance ever built. The President drove allies toward a historic decision at NATO summit in The Hague last summer to invest 5% of GDP into defense. And this will help to ensure that the NATO of the future is not an alliance in which allies are unhealthily dependent on the United States, and in which the United States knows that it has capable partners who are ready, willing, and able to defend our freedom and security. Those investments are already laying the foundation for a stronger Europe in a stronger NATO, for a genuine partnership and the security that our freedom deserves. These investments are crucial. And allies are moving quickly to secure the budgets, grow their armed forces, and field the capabilities we know we need. But even with this progress, it is clear we will need more. More high-end, exquisite capabilities to defend against the modern missiles our adversaries are employing against Kiev and Tel Aviv. More scalable, adaptable drone interceptor technology. And here, Ukraine's hard-earned battlefield lessons are saving lives beyond its own borders. At this moment, allies on NATO's eastern flank and our dear friends in the Gulf are defending against Russian and Iranian drones, thanks in part to Ukrainian technology that did not exist even 1 year ago. So business as usual will not meet this moment. And allow me here to applaud President Trump for his bold leadership and vision. The United States, and this is just an example from last week, just announced a framework agreement to triple production of certain types of Patriot missiles. And this is absolutely crucial. And it's another example of American leadership. And it is essential to refilling our magazines and building the arsenal of freedom. As I look toward the Ankara summit, I'm confident NATO collectively and allies individually will similarly act to break down barriers and unleash the potential of defense industry on both sides of the Atlantic. So the money is flowing. Industry and government will cooperate to ensure that money translates into the capabilities we need. Why then does everyone in this room have a knot in their stomach about the future of the transatlantic alliance? Why, when we turn on our televisions or scroll on our phones, do we see eager early drafts of NATO's obituary? Let me be clear. This alliance is not whistling past the graveyard, as you would say in the United States. Allies recognize, and I recognize.
It's not whistling past the graveyard? What's the saying he said we would say?
Graveyard.
I've never
Clear.
heard of that.
This alliance is not whistling past the graveyard, as you would say in the United States.
Yeah, that's definitely... Well, you know what they say, Mooten. People would rather ride the Ferris wheel than buy a ticket to the weight train.
That's right.
Allies recognize, and I recognize, we are in a period of profound change in the transatlantic alliance.
Maybe he's saying whistling Dixie?
Europe is assuming a greater and fairer share of the task of providing for its conventional defense.
Oh, maybe.
And from that, there will be no going back, and nor should there be. This is a move from unhealthy codependence to a transatlantic alliance grounded in true partnership. For increased investments and improved production to matter, they must be accompanied by a mindset shift. That mindset shift is well underway. But these shifts are often only fully appreciated with the benefit of time. And the space between can be precarious. Let's consider the most recent events. When it came time to provide the logistical and other support the United States needed in Iran, some allies were a bit slow, to say the least. In fairness, they were also a bit surprised. To maintain the element of surprise for the initial strikes, President Trump opted not to inform allies ahead of time. And I understand that.
So I feel like when I'm listening to this guy speak, just in the past, I've heard him talk about Trump and NATO and Europe, because his job as like the head of NATO is basically to dick suck Trump as hard as possible so that Trump is kind of on board with everything. I don't know if I've ever heard him provide a defense for why European leaders are ever slacking or whatever retarded shit Trump says. I think it's generally always just ubiquitously Trump dick suckery. I've heard him give a lot more defense of how the European countries are acting, like he's about to do now. So this is a statement that it feels to me like it bodes poorly for that Trump is giving him the impression that we're leaving, because now he, like, this statement of, you know, hey, like, there were some European leaders that didn't join to help, but to be fair, we were surprised Trump didn't tell us shit. Like, I've never heard these defenses from him before. Now, maybe he's given them and I just haven't heard them in these speeches, but it makes it sound like he's like, we're doing good, guys. We're going to be okay.
But what I see when I look across Europe today is allies providing a massive amount of support, basing, logistics and other measures to ensure the powerful US military succeeds in denying Iran a nuclear weapon and degrading its capacity to export chaos. Nearly without exception, allies are doing everything the United States is asking. They have heard and are responding.
Like, this is a direct contradiction to what Trump has said. Because Trump is constantly complaining that, like, they're not helping, they're not doing anything. And then here he's like, the European countries have done exactly what the U.S. has asked. We're enabling the U.S. military to perform its job, you know?
Responding to President Trump's requests. The United Kingdom is leading a coalition of countries that are aligning the military, the political and the economic tools that will be required to ensure free passage through the Strait of Hormuz. This is evidence of a mindset shift. And right now, European allies play leading roles in NATO's operations to secure our eastern flank, the Baltic Sea and the Arctic, acting rapidly to field personnel, aircraft, naval vessels and more to bolster our security in the face of emerging threats in these regions. When Russian MiG-31s crossed the Estonian airspace last fall, it was European aircraft, Italians in the lead, backed up by Finns and Swedes, that turned them back. And a flock of Russian drones wandered recklessly into Poland around the same time. I'm proud to say it was a Dutch F-35 that fired the shot that took down the danger.
The Dutch have F-35s? Bro, we sell their shit to way too many people.
In my estimation, Secretary Rubio is spot on when he says that an alliance cannot be a one-way street. It was not a one-way alliance when US, European and Canadian troops fought and sacrificed shoulder to shoulder in Afghanistan.
Yeah, in Afghanistan.
And I'm heartened by the knowledge that every day, as we speak...
Like, this is bringing up directly contradictory points, because Trump keeps saying, like, NATO hasn't been there for us, NATO's not there, NATO's not doing it, but NATO did answer when the United States wanted to go to war in the Middle East on what I would say is maybe a questionable activation of Article 5. Article 5 is supposed to be defensive activation if you've been attacked, and like, Afghanistan was harboring Al-Qaeda, but, like, I don't know really if that should have counted, but I mean, like, they did. They showed up. Everybody showed up.
The US, European and Canadian troops continue to train and deploy in support of our shared security. I'm confident that a stronger Europe and a stronger NATO will not take US leadership for granted. On the 40th anniversary of D-Day in 1984, standing atop the cliffs at Pointe du Hoc, where the US 2nd Ranger Battalion had fought to carve out a toehold on the continent, President Reagan offered an apt reflection. It is good and fitting to renew our commitment to each other, to our freedom, and to the alliance that protects it. NATO is changing. Thanks to American leadership and a collective commitment to ensuring continued freedom and security, NATO is growing stronger. Thanks to the mindset shift that is happening, I see a true partnership on the transatlantic horizon. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted, Reagan famously said. As we brave this new path before us, I'm confident that together, the United States and its allies in NATO will deliver on our shared commitment to securing our freedom today, tomorrow, and well beyond. Thank you.
Meme video? This is a year old.
I'm worried it's going to be too easy for you and Matt. You and Matt are Brett experts, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, I scored 0 on the last quiz, Dan, so...
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
Okay, so Matt, on this special end-of-year episode, we have another guest, Dan Gilbert, of initially Weinstein fame, but it's fair to say he's become broader than that. Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk, none escape the eye of Dan. He's bad stats on Twitter. Is he still on Twitter?
Oh, the bad stats guy.
But he's probably on Blue Sky as well. And we welcome Dan.
Thank you. I think I was on this podcast 4 years ago, so I'm happy to make my once every 4 year Decoding the Gurus appearance to talk about the Weinsteins once again.
You've been on since then, haven't you?
Not that I know of, but...
We talk about Dan a lot.
Yeah, it's probably because we steal your clips.
That's right. My clips have made appearances.
Yeah, it feels like you're always here with us in a way.
In
Dan.
spirit, yes.
Yeah.
So as the unofficial Brett Weinstein correspondent for Decoding the Gurus, I thought I'd check in on you two and just make sure that you're keeping up with your Brett lore.
This is important because Matt's just had his dignity and self-worth damaged by losing badly in another Guru quiz. So this is his chance to restore it, Dan.
This is your chance for redemption.
Yeah, Matt is very good with remembering the details of like specific things around Guru. So this is great. Yeah.
Great. Well, there's 7 questions in this quiz, so I'm expecting a score of 7 out of 7. Anything less, I will consider to be a disappointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should we get started?
Yeah, me versus you, Matt. That's the way this stands. Okay, me versus you. We're not a team.
We're not a team. Not a team. All right, go for it, Dan.
It's Brett Weinstein Trivia.
That's a smidgen of moo and a bit of oinkor.
All right. So question 1. Which of these things does Brett Weinstein think is the primary cause of the disease known as polio? A.
Wait. Bad hygiene is my guess. Fuck, but there's no way. We'll see.
Wokeism. B. The polio virus. C. Pesticides. Or D. Nutrient deficiencies.
Oh, fuck. It's my guess is D. Fuck. D. Oh, no. Yeah, somebody just said DDT. Weren't people blaming... No, I'm going to go with nutrients. It's always the food. Metabolic issue, whatever bullshit.
That's my guess. It's a guess, Matt.
Yeah, I'm tossing up between nutrient deficiencies and pesticides. So to just make things interesting, I'll go for pesticides.
It obviously cannot be B. It cannot be B.
That's the only way you know for sure.
The actual virus.
Yeah.
No shot.
All right, so final answer, Chris D. Matt.
I kind of think it's nutrient deficiencies, but...
It's got to be.
That's fine. Stick with it. Don't worry.
Let's go with that.
Stick with nutrient deficiencies. All right.
Okay, you are both wrong. The answer is C, pesticides.
God damn it.
So that'll be a 0 in the first row.
Nonetheless, what you have is something like an epidemic of polio that's not really an epidemic of polio. You have an epidemic of gypsy moths that are being sprayed for with these toxic pesticides.
I should get half a point, though, because I was originally...
Because you were into...
Yeah,
maybe you should give him a half point, Dan, because I think this...
I controlled a couple of points out of Helen as well, just continuing the... Anyway,
there will be no sympathy points here. We don't do grade inflation. This is not a woke university. Question 2. Which of these things does Brett Weinstein think is the primary cause of excess deaths during the Spanish flu pandemic? So during the Spanish flu pandemic, A, was it Spanish flu? B, overreported deaths? C, proto-SARS-CoV-2? Or D, aspirin?
Oh, fuck. It's got to be overreported deaths. People would just die of old age and they'd say it's the Spanish flu. I feel like you could say some shit like
D,
that.
overreported deaths from Matt.
D, and I'll say.
Chris is suspiciously confident that it's D, aspirin. All right, the answer is D, aspirin.
Fuck! Wait, what?
Basically, the Spanish flu was a non-issue. The only reason people died during the Spanish flu was because they were overprescribing aspirin, and that's what was killing people.
My God. He's always stupider than you expect.
There was a enthusiasm for prescribing
No.
aspirin for people who came in with flu symptoms, and they were prescribed aspirin in doses that are now known to be deadly.
Yeah, it's like I heard that question on Patreon or something. I just had this like.
Chris may have gone to preview of that question. We might have to strike this question from the record.
Yep, strike it. I agree.
Question 3. So in order to help make sense of this complicated world, Bret Weinstein likes to invent helpful concepts. So which of these is not a Bret Weinstein coinage? So 3 of these are Bret Weinstein coinages. One of them is not.
One is fake, one is down.
You want to find the fake one. A, the Cartesian crisis. B, the PSYOP Cyclops. C, the coalition slicer dicer. And D, the time-traveling money printer.
Which one is a fake problem?
The Cartesian crisis. Coined world, Bret Weinstein likes to invent helpful concepts. So which of these is not a Bret Weinstein coinage? So 3 of these are Bret Weinstein coinages. One of them is not.
Oh.
One is fake, one is down.
You want to find the fake one. A, the Cartesian crisis. B, the PSYOP Cyclops. C, the coalition slicer dicer. And D, the time-traveling money printer.
I know the answer, but I don't want to give him a hint, so I'll let him go first.
Well, I think it's either B or D, and I'm going to go for B. Just read me B again, just to check that I'm...
B is the PSYOP Cyclops.
Yeah, I'm going to go for B. Not B.
It is B.
All right, B is correct. A point for Chris and Matt. My PSYOP Cyclops. I can't imitate Brett. He's too unique. My PSYOP Cyclops was too obvious.
Yeah, that sounds like something you'd invent.
But no, it's also that the other ones are quite memorable.
You know, I coined this term, the Cartesian crisis.
Like the
coalition slicer dicer in particular, that stands out for me. Yeah.
There's something that I would call the coalition slicer dicer.
What I call it, the time-traveling money printer.
So question 4. Bret Weinstein is a leading evolutionary theorist. Which of these is not one of Bret Weinstein's novel evolutionary hypotheses?
Oh.
So A, fashion trends originate as an adaptive response to predators. By frequently changing the patterns on their clothing, ancient humans could confuse predators and increase the likelihood of survival. That's A.
I mean, whether you thought of that or Brett did, I love it. I love it.
My hat is off, yeah.
Yeah, go on.
B, China's one-child policy is the result of a genetic adaptation in humans that causes them to pass government policies which create a gender imbalance in favor of males when they sense war is coming.
That's
B.
a Brett thing. Yeah, go on.
C.
Sorry, I shouldn't be helping Chris. I shouldn't be showing
That's
help. You don't need my help. That's what you think, hey, Chris? All right, go on.
An evolutionary analysis reveals that although perhaps Hitler was evil, the Holocaust was rational from a genetic perspective. And D, men, when hanged, ejaculate. This is an adaptation which confers a reproductive advantage because of the slight chance that the semen will end up in a vagina.
I'm going with D. That can't be real. I could totally see him saying the other 3, but it might be A. I'm going to guess D.
Yes. Okay, well, I know my pick. Would you like to go first, Chris? I'm locked in.
I'm afraid, Dan, that although it was a good attempt at imitating the master, you don't have the evolutionary lens that Brett does. So A doesn't quite cut it in Weinsteinian evolutionary
All right,
theory.
so it's an A from Chris and Matt.
Yeah, A from me too.
Yes, you're correct.
okay.
The one-child policy.
I wrote an essay about the one-child policy, which caused me all those years ago when I wrote this piece to wonder if there wasn't another evolutionary force in play. If evolution did not have a mechanism for producing armies, that when a country was in a position to expand, that producing excess males does pay off at a lineage level. And if what happened is that a male-biased population in China was produced as a weapon, and if that weapon is now being deployed.
The Hitler was rational genetically.
My claim is that if it is true that things like xenophobia, genocide, suicide are products of adaptive evolution, let's say that the impulse to genocide is something that lurks inside human beings, awaiting certain indicators that it is the moment for that program to be triggered.
And the men when hanged ejaculating in case it might end up in a vagina, I feel like are 2 iconic of, Brett theories.
You know, the apparent tendency of people being hung to orgasm, right? What is that? That is likely to be the body taking one last shot. But in order for a pattern to occur where some entity releases sexual propagules on death, in order for that to evolve, it has to have worked enough times for that pattern to have accumulated. And so if autoerotic asphyxiation is the result of people tapping into that thing and traversing a landscape near death in order to increase sexual pleasure, what that suggests is that that landscape near death has a certain amount of reproduction happen in it that has.
Oh my! Isn't he PhD'd in Evo Psych? Like, isn't this weird? This is such a bad way of thinking. There are so many different reasons why any particular trait could or couldn't emerge. It could be a completely unrelated thing. The idea that you would so instant, especially something as complex as like sexual release or whatever. There's so many different systems at play here. The idea that this is, I don't know, it's fucking retarded.
Resulted in this circuitry being present.
My mission in life is to get everyone to know that these are Brett theories, so this just means it's working.
Well, I don't want to step on another question, but I thought you were going to reference the renting the hall to explain gay people.
Explain the origin. The problem is he never actually got around to renting the hall, so I don't know what his evolutionary theory of homosexuality is. Otherwise, I would have included it. And it's been how many years since he's been promising? He's only given like the tiniest little hints. So I'm dying to hear it.
Oh, evolution or biology. Sorry, not your psych.
Have to hear
We
it.
can only imagine. We can only dream. But yeah, when Apollo's invented, we'll all be there.
Question 5. So Brett Weinstein recognized.
Remember, Eric Weinstein, the guy who has a theory for everything, who solved physics and quantum gravity and everything, that's his brother. Is his brother. This is a very special family, okay? What's the name? We used to just call these people nerds back in high school. No, because nerds could be genuinely smart. What's the name for this aesthetic if somebody speaks intelligently? Like they sound like a smart person, but they're just fucking retarded. Oh my god. Stop.
That we live in an increasingly treacherous world.
Yes.
Which of these concerns has Brett not mentioned? So A, residual radiation from Fukushima has traversed the Pacific and is interfering with his camera equipment. B, Brett will need to cook his steaks well done to denature the mRNA proteins found in the meat of cows vaccinated with mRNA vaccines.
No way! No.
C, Brett's enemies are trying to intimidate him into silence by hacking into his phone and causing it to display threatening words like suicide. And D, since the recent aurora borealis, increased solar activity may be interfering with the GPS device on his bicycle, causing him to get lost.
I'm gonna guess D.
So I think I know the answer, but I demand that you go first, Matt, because I feel you don't.
Could he really believe?
Don't rule me out. I think I'm going for B. Read me B again, just to check.
Brett will need to cook his steaks well done to denature the mRNA proteins found in the meat of cows vaccinated with mRNA vaccines.
No, that can't. No. Do we even do mRNA vaccines for cows? No, I gotta go with B. I gotta go with B.
That's plausibly Brett, but
I gotta go
I'm
with B.
going to go for B anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Matt goes with B. Chris?
Good
D.
call.
Obviously D. Obviously
Okay, that's right. Chris is right. So that's a point for Chris.
Obviously D. Come on.
Yeah,
don't
Brett-
belittle my tips, Chris.
I'm not sure exactly what happened on my phone, but somehow the next screen that showed up was a browser window. And in the browser window was a DuckDuckGo search, as far as I know, already completed on the word suicide. If it wasn't a technical glitch, maybe it was just a message designed to scare. If it wasn't that, if it was a warning, I don't scare easily, and we can't afford to have a world that's governed by people who threaten as a mechanism to get what they want.
Brett was very concerned because, they read an article about how they might be developing mRNA vaccines for livestock, and then he was really angry about this because they could still sell that meat as organic, which is the meat that he buys. And so now he was saying, now I'm going to have to start cooking my steaks well done to deal with the harms from the mRNA that's going to be in the meat of the cows that are vaccinated with the vaccine.
If I was starving and you said, here's a steak, that animal was vaccinated with mRNA coated in lipid nanoparticles, something that we now call a vaccine. My answer is, yep, I'd like it well done. Right? Why? Because you're going to at least potentially break.
Wait, what the fuck? No shot. Hold on. This one's Brett, right?
But the harms from the mRNA that's going to be in the meat of the cows that are vaccinated with the vaccine.
If I was starving and you said, here's a steak, that animal was vaccinated with mRNA coated in lipid nanoparticles, something that we now call a vaccine. My answer is, yep, I'd like it well done. Right? Why? Because you're going to at least potentially break apart some of the stuff that's dangerous to me with heat. Is it going to make a steak I really want to eat? No, but if I'm starving, I'd much rather eat it after you've cooked the hell out of that thing.
I did appreciate, Dan, that you folded in Brett's concern with solar flares and radiation. That actually, on the hook initially, I was like, oh yeah, he is concerned about that. But then when
he's concerned about ending the world, but he's not. Yes. It hasn't messed with his.
Can you eat? If you were to eat anything RNA related, even covered in the lipid nanoparticles, wouldn't your saliva just destroy it? I feel like your stomach acids and everything. Would you actually meaningfully absorb RNA through your stomach? I feel like it would just be dissolved. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
His GPS.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's what, yeah. Well, that's what threw me. So that was a good distractor. Well done.
Wait, what was
he's concerned about that? But then
he's concerned about ending the world, but he's not. Yes. It hasn't messed with his GPS.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's what, Well, that's what threw me. So that was a good distractor. Well done.
I like that.
Radiation liberated by the fires, radiation that might have been lodged in those forests through nuclear meltdowns in Fukushima. The fallout did fall in the Pacific Northwest, got incorporated into the trees. When the trees burned, it got liberated. And maybe those radioactive decay events in the smoke around us were interfering with the cameras. So that was the hypothesis on the table. And it was
What? This reminds me of when I talked about this on stream, right? When we were trying to troubleshoot the studio downstairs, when there was a digital phase And Lycan was like, I think it's because one of the XLR cables was longer than the other XLR cable. And I'm like, it's an analog signal, bro. This is the speed of light, basically. What do you mean the cable is longer? Like, is it like 10,000 miles long? What do you mean? That's when I started to learn everything on my own, by the way. It was that question that made me lose faith. When I was like, all right, I got to learn all this shit.
The only thing that seemed to explain it.
Question 6. So Brett Weinstein rose to prominence for his insightful commentary throughout the COVID pandemic. Which of the following was not a Brett Weinstein hypothesis regarding COVID?
What was not a hypothesis?
Omicron variant was developed in a lab by rogue white hat scientists as a natural vaccine to be unleashed upon the world. B. Pharmacies are now selling pills labeled as ivermectin, but which actually contain harmful big pharma products like Paxlovid and Remdesivir. C.
No.
They are giving people antigen tests that yield false negatives in order to trick people into spreading COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
Or D. The October 7th attacks on Israel may have been orchestrated in order to cause a rift between Brett and his friends in the COVID dissident community and prevent them from becoming too powerful.
It's B, because there's no way he would ever say anything bad about the wonderful miracle drug of ivermectin to even, for a microsecond, make people think that that's not the best thing ever to buy all the time. I'm going to go with B.
Yeah, well, we know the last one is definitely Brett.
Unbelievably, that is Brett. More people should know that.
Let's say that you have a group of people, right? You have the COVID dissidents who are realizing that they're all seeing pieces of the puzzle, and then they pool those pieces and they say, oh my God, here's what the larger puzzle looks like. And they are empowered and they hold meetings, and that is a very powerful force. Oh, no. That force is fiercely divided over the interpretation of what took place on October 7th in Israel. Divide and conquer in an information landscape might look very much like an ongoing slicer-dicer operation that simply tears coalitions apart so that they are never capable of making any meaningful change, which is, after all, I think, the Goliath's purpose.
People, I think I know, but this is a good one. This is a
good one. Oh shit, I've forgotten my pick.
You want summaries?
I think it's one of the first two. Yeah, quick summaries.
A is Omicron is a white hat vaccine that was intentionally leaked from a lab. Mm-hmm. And B is pharmacies are selling pills labeled as ivermectin, but they're actually big pharma drugs.
Yeah. I'm going to pick B is the one that is.
I think B as well.
All right, you are correct. It is B.
We know what, Brett.
So if somebody released Omicron as a white hat exercise in returning planet Earth to normal, they took a massive gamble on our behalfs, which probably they didn't have a right to do, right? Because it could evolve into something that is outside of their understanding. I don't know, maybe it has a kill switch in it.
We know all of his conspiracies.
Not the kill switch.
This is the problem. But whenever there's a new one, it's like he could say that, but he hasn't said it yet.
He hasn't said it yet. All right, last question. And this one is going to be a slam dunk for you guys.
This is also, there's a good question about like responsible platforming in here too. Is it responsible for these guys on their show to be talking about stuff like this when Brett could be farming this for ideas? Like, I feel like Brett's the kind of guy who could say, this is a thing that I'm pretty sure is happening, but the reason why these guys brought it up as a joke on their podcast first was because the people who were doing it to me incepted the idea into their mind to undermine me when I bring this up as a real thing that's actually happening. Like, I feel like you could say that, you know?
Which of these people has blocked Brett on Twitter?
Oh,
has blocked.
It's going to be a slam dunk for you guys.
Okay.
Which of these people has blocked Brett on Twitter?
Oh.
So A, James Lindsay, because Brett was a member of the controlled opposition who opposed COVID vaccines but refused to recognize that they were products of Gnosticism. B, Eric Weinstein, because Brett was going a bit too far off the deep end and it was interfering with Eric's more subtle brand of obfuscation. C, Elon Musk, because Brett spammed him with messages insisting he was shadow banned and asking Musk to do something about it. Or D, Peter Hotez.
Is it C?
After Brett issued a series of no less than 13 tweets impelling him to debate RFK Jr.
They all should have blocked them. But we know who it is, Matt.
We all know who it was. That's right. Elon Musk.
It's Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, because I guess he was complaining about it for like many weeks in a row on his podcast. And how every podcast he went on, he would complain about how Elon Musk blocked him. And say, if Elon Musk is watching this podcast, could you let him know? Could you tell him to unblock me?
Elon has me blocked. My little story where, he blocked me, it's like, look, hey, Elon, I cannot understand this. Elon, if you're watching, you have no idea how to...
They're both schizo! Him and his brother are schizo. What the fuck? Dude, legitimately both schizophrenic.
Destructive it is of your platform to block somebody yourself, but please undo it.
Someone in YouTube chat said, imagine seeing a genocide and going, this is a distraction. Honestly, that's just king shit. Bro, you should have seen Brett when he was talking about, I think it was Eric. It was either Eric or Brett when they were like, Trump, it's insane that you guys haven't reached out to us yet to put us in your cabinet. I can't believe that you guys haven't reached out to us to put the intellectual dark web guys on the cabinet yet. What's going on? Was that Eric?
Because if you're really about free speech, this is not helping. So he then blocked me saying, stop spamming me.
This is why it's so hard to leave Twitter, because it's a cesspool of corruption but it has those happenings, which are just so funny. I remember it making my day. His continual whinging about being caught by.
So Dan, you need to summarize though. I hope you were keeping track.
I kept careful score. So including the question, which we should strike on the record because Chris is a cheater, the total score is 4 points for Matt out of 7.
Which brother is the one that has the long Twitter arguments with Grok? Eric. Oh, apparently somebody linked this in the was this in the subreddit or did I see this somewhere else? Apparently Greenwald has had weird debates with Grok. Was it or no, it was Ryan Grimm threatened to block Grok if he kept saying something. What?
And for Chris, 6 points out of 7.
So even if we, does that include striking the?
That includes striking
point?
question number 2. So I think that puts Matt in the category of sophist who trusts the science, and that would put Chris in the category of a member of the coalition of the reasonable.
Yeah, thank you.
Stop looking so smug, Chris.
That's just my fears, Matt. That is my fears.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion, a Cambrian explosion of creativity. That's the exact phrase.
Police corporal created AI porn from driver's license pics. Okay. I mean, it's not funny.
Sam Altman used a few months ago when
control our security apparatus. If they control our security apparatus, if they control our banking system, if they are the intermediaries, the middlemen with everything, global trade, they have a position in the court of every government in the world. What are they going to do to us? Are you starting to understand the problem?
Are you starting to get it now,
What plan
guys?
B do they have in store for Americans? They had a plan B for Hezbollah. They put plastic explosives in all their pagers. Hezbollah was running around for 10 years.
Wake up, sheeple.
With radios and pagers, talking to each other, communicating on their hip every day. And there were plastic explosives planted by Israel the entire time. How the fuck do you think they did that? They've got shell corporations everywhere. Where does Hezbollah even get their pagers? Some electronics wholesaler, some manufacturer. Israel's got shell companies inside of shell companies, factories, fake LLCs. It's all obfuscated. Shipping companies, they probably control the factory where it's made. They control
Israel
the
founded
facility
Hamas.
where it's distributed. They control the ships
Netanyahu funded them. It's worse
upon
than
which
that.
they were delivered. How convoluted. That's the Mossad, and that is the Mossad's Jewish allies in Eastern Europe, in Asia. Who even knows the extent of this? And this is what they had in store for Hezbollah. You don't think they got a plan B for America? You don't think they've thought about that? They prepared, that was 10 years in the making. 10 years. Hezbollah's walking around with plastic explosives in their pagers. They had people in Iran following around the Ayatollah for 10 years. You don't think they got somebody on Trump? He's on TV. His name's Howard Lutnick. They had somebody following the Ayatollah, giving his whereabouts to Israeli intelligence the whole time for years. So did the CIA. You don't think Israel has somebody on the president at all times? You don't think they got a plan B for our financial markets, for our credit system, for the money supply, for the media? You don't think they've got stuff in New York? You don't think they have a warehouse in New York?
Come on, guys, wake up.
In LA, in Miami?
Wake the fuck up, guys.
They do. You can almost be sure of it. And that's why the American president doesn't want to take them on, because he knows he'd rather the explosives go off over there than go off over here. This is when I say Iran is fighting for all of us, because you think about, okay, you want to fight Israel. What do you need to do? Well, Israel has the U.S. at its beck and call for these reasons. They've got nuclear bombs. They've got an air force furnished by the United States. They've got the Mossad. Jews are everywhere, and the Mossad talks to all of them in Tehran, in Brussels, in Paris, in Washington, in Moscow, in Petersburg, everywhere. How the f*** are you going to fight back against that? I'll tell you how. You need a country of 100 million people. You need a revolutionary guard of religious zealots ready to die for their cause. You need them answerable to a supreme leader who's a cleric ready to die. You need 5,000 missiles buried underground. As a matter of fact, you need the facilities that make the missiles buried inside of mountains. You need enough uranium for 10 nuclear bombs. And then the United States will consider not trying to smoke you out with everything in our arsenal. You might survive.
Maybe.
Are we prepared for that?
Maybe.
That is what it cost Iran to tell Israel no. That is what it cost Iran. That is the price of their sovereignty. That's what sovereignty is. It's the ability to tell another country no. What is the price that Iran has to pay to tell Israel and Washington no? They had to turn their country into a fortress. They had to build a 1 million man army motivated by religion, and then they had to turn their entire country into a military base with drone and missile launch platforms everywhere and underground, and they had to sacrifice everything to build these capabilities. And they had to have 200,000 Revolutionary Guard with a bench 7 people deep because they knew all of them were going to get assassinated. That's what they're doing to protect themselves. Is the United States ready for that?
And they think they're going to rule the world with their Messiah. Israel thinks they're going to rule the world with the Messiah. The Christian Zionists think it's Israel's going to rule the world. This is crazy, people. They're all crazy. And I'm just saying, please stop. I don't want to be involved in this. My president's my president, not yours. And I'm going to fight, and I'm going to get on his ass to keep you away from him, Israel. Because you're certainly not under the control of the Muslims. If they were doing this, I'd be after them too, and criticizing Trump.
Am I watching Alex Jones watching Nick Fuentes? Was that what that was? I think so. Okay. Oh, that's why you had commentary. Okay. Ryan Grimm versus Grok. 01. The USSR had a right to exist. The central tenet of USSR was to destroy all capitalist countries, including and especially the USA, mutually exclusive ideology. There's no excuse for this level of confident ignorance. From Stalin on, the Soviet policy was one of coexistence. Grok, did the USSR actually try to establish world socialism and ultimately communism? Yes. The USSR's founding ideology under Lenin and Stalin, blah, blah. Grok, I'm going to block you if you are truly this misinformed. This is Communism 101. The whole debate between Stalin and Trotsky was over this question, and Stalin won. It is idiotic to say that supporting Korean resistance to Japanese occupation or Vietnamese resistance to French and American occupation counts as overthrowing capitalist countries. Check your training for bias, because these assertions are absurd. Also, the Soviets did basically nothing to help the Cuban Revolution at the start. This is your last chance to dodge a block. Stalin's socialism in one country triumphed over Trotsky's permanent revolution, prioritizing Soviet security while still directing Comintern efforts to foment uprisings abroad until its 1943 dissolution. Yet Soviet-backed North Korea forces invaded capitalist South Korea in 1950, aiming to unify under communism, and extensive aid to Viet Minh communists targeted French colonial and later U.S. presence to install Marxist rule. That's better, but these examples are not persuasive. Name a single uprising during Stalin's term that was supported by the Soviet Union with anything other than a friendly statement. If it's true they were fomenting uprisings all over the world, it should be easy to name one. The Spanish Civil War. The USSR shipped 648 aircraft, 347 tanks, artillery, and military advisors to the Republican government, where communists under Comintern direction purged rivals and sought to establish a Soviet-style regime against capitalist and fascist forces. The Spanish Civil War? Grok, the Soviets were supporting the elected government of Spain against fascist insurgents. Try again. This one obviously doesn't count. Not good, man. The Spanish Republic's Popular Front included communists who, with Soviet arms and NKVD advisors, sidelined moderates and rivals like the POUM via purges and assassinations, mirroring Moscow's playbook. Stalin's aid was an altruistic defense of democracy, but a bid to install a loyal regime, as evidenced by the communist push for nationalization and collectivization amid the war. If this fits a pattern, it should not be hard for you to give me a single example of the Soviets moving to overthrow an existing capitalist government from Stalin on. Just one. All you've got so far is Soviet advisors pushing socialist policies on the government of Spain. In 1948, Czechoslovakia, Soviet diplomats and military threats with Red Army divisions poised on the border. Holy shit. Well, now you're talking about countries behind the Iron Curtain right after World War II, which is different than saying they were constantly going for world domination, which was your original claim. Meanwhile, it is very easy to name governments that the U.S. toppled or helped topple: Iran, Indonesia, Brazil, Congo, Chile, Guatemala, and on and on. So is the U.S. expansionist and unwilling to coexist? Czechoslovakia's 1948 coup exemplified Soviet-orchestrated overthrow of a capitalist democracy via intimidation and internal proxies, extending influence aggressively post-World War II.
You guys arguing with an AI?
Yes, these people are crazy.
In front of everyone?
Yes. But it's not that he's just arguing. It's when he's saying things, I'm going to block you, man. What's wrong with you, man? Like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
They're lunatics. I mean, I could see him doing it in private. In public,
well, but
that's
typing
insane.
like that, really?
No, it's crazy. But in public, is even crazier work.
Let me get a Red Bull 1 sec.
Steve's getting a Red Bull. He don't take no bull. Yeah. Who's excited for the panel tonight? I'm gonna flip on these two, and I'm gonna be so pro Hasan.
What did you say?
The long game.
Motherfucker.
Oh, nothing.
Also, we got a new daily game.
Ooh, is it the cryptic one or is it the ear one?
It's a diagnosis one.
Oh, that's a house game. They should have called it Houseordled.
All right, let's fucking go. A 55-year-old woman develops shortness of breath 2 days after emergency appendectomy. What do you think?
Get rid of the appendix? I'm thinking lupus. I'm going to be honest right now.
No, what? Autoimmune? No, doesn't fit at all. Doesn't fit at all. I'm gonna say pulmonary embolism. Is that a thing? PE.
How do I accept the cookies to play? Oh,
fuck. Okay. She is afibral, and her surgical incisions appear clean. Afibral is a bad heart
rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
The heart's fucked. Do you think it's infection from the surgery?
Well, her surgical incisions appear clean. Wouldn't it be like red?
Do you think they nicked a fucking bowel? No, because that would be
bowel?
something different. Mm-hmm. That's how my grandmother died. Her bowel got nicked mid-surgery, and she got fucking, I don't know, sepsis or whatever.
Oh, no, sepsis would show you'd see it on the outside, and we've got an abnormal
You'd probably
heart.
see it on the shortness of breath.
It's got to be some type of infection. That's what I'm thinking. But
That's what I'm thinking too.
It's got to be an inside infection. Does sepsis always appear like outside? Let's try our sepsis one.
Well, sepsis is the inside shit, right?
Wait, it's not even septic shock. No, maybe?
No.
Fuck, I don't know, man. Fuck. Postoperative pain is moderately controlled, limiting deep inspiration. What does that mean? Deep inspiration.
Why are your cats singing, man?
I don't know. They just do this sometimes. Okay, so they can't breathe deeply?
Okay, so do we think that her lungs are filling up with water and shit?
What's a pneumothorax? Traumatic, tension, secondary, spontaneous pneumothorax. Fuck, okay. Physical exam.
It's not pneumonia either.
Physical exam reveals decreased breath sounds on the right lung base. Oxygen saturation is 93% on room air.
That's really low.
Wait, what is pneumothorax again? Hold on. Pneumothorax. A collapsed lung caused by air leaking into the space between lung and chest wall. Yeah. Could it be primary? I don't know. I was just guessing. Primary and secondary. Primary is like from primary trauma. Secondary caused by something else. Fuck. Decreased
There's like
breath
10
sounds
different
at
types of pneumonia.
the right
Oh.
lung base. No, it can't be pneumonia. In one, it just can,
Aspiration pneumonia.
is that a real thing?
That's what's on. It's on there. Yeah.
Can pneumonia affect just one lung? No. Chest X-ray demonstrates a right lower lobe opacity with associated volume loss. What does that mean? It's filling with fluid? What does that mean? What kind of thing is that? It's got to be a surgery-related thing. Pleural effusion? What is pleural effusion? Pleural
What would Dr.
effusion.
House say? He'd say, forget the surgery.
Oh, that's it. Pleural effusion. It's pleural effusion. It's definitely that one. You're absolutely right. Fuck! Findings improve with incentive spirometry and deep breathing exercises. What is spirometry? Some kind of breathing thing. Non-invasive 30-minute lung function test. Whoa.
Yeah, I got to break into her house, Stephen.
Yeah, did we get to break into the house? I give good to mid links, and sometimes there's a gem in there. Only half are found by Claude Promises. Never leave us. Okay. Atelectasis? Bro, I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's a partial or total collapse of lung tissue caused by airway obstruction or external pressure, resulting in reduced air capacity and impaired gas exchange. Caused by post-operative anesthesia. Oh, shit. It was that one. How do you pronounce
They
this?
got to add a mini game where you can break into a house.
True. Why
Talk
do you
to
think
the
it's
dad
called
and see if he
house?
cheated. Yeah.
What is this? How do you pronounce this? Say
In
it.
this screencast, we are going to discuss atelectasis.
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 Remember that for next time, dipshit.
Atelectasis.
We should have gotten that on the first one. Post-operative. Lung problems. Right there.
Duh.
We are... I don't know why they sing. Oh, I think it's because I'm not taking my turn.
When these people tell you who they are,
Listen.
believe them.
Yes.
Pay attention and believe them. Because as sure as I am sitting here right now and
Yeah.
you are watching this, the replay or live or the clip in 2 years, and this clip will resurface in 2 years, as sure as I am sitting here and you are watching this, whenever you're watching this, mark my words, Megyn Kelly, Tucker, almost certainly Candace Owens, all these people that are so against the war in Iran and so against Israel and so hypercritical of Trump, all of them are going to tell you to vote Republican and vote for J.D. Vance in 2028.
You think?
And what did J.D. Vance do?
Cocked out.
He sat there
like a
in
cock.
the White House while
Like a
Trump
cock.
was at Mar-a-Lago.
Like a
And they
cock.
say that Vance encouraged Trump to hit Iran as hard as possible.
Oh, well, no, that
Who
doesn't
says
sound...
that?
Nobody says that, but...
There was no dissent within the ranks when this decision was made. There was no
That's
dissent
true.
from within.
Well, maybe he just means that,
That's
like,
true,
Vance should have taken a stronger stance against it, which is probably true.
Within the cabinet. And that would have been the time. If J.D. Vance were the guy, if he had care.
The problem, though, is that this is your boy. This is who you guys chose. Like, all of these deep character flaws have been known about Trump for so long. All of these incredibly deep character flaws have been known. None of this should be that surprising. You're like, this is the easiest GED politics question in the world. What was one of the big things, who watches Destiny, was one of my hugest criticisms for Vance? What was a question that Vance was asked about over and over again, and he repeatedly affirmed that he would take a certain course of action? Who remembers? January 6th, Vance said that unlike Pence, he would have refused to certify the results of the election, and he would have gone along with it. How can you be surprised that that guy would go along with Trump's desire to do whatever the fuck in Iran? How could you?
I can't believe he said that.
Yeah, well,
that's
character, if he was America first, that would have been the time This may be an inflection point in our history. This is
Just
a
now?
really bad mistake.
Oh, yeah?
And it's one that was totally avoidable. And
Really?
we all know why it happened, because Israel wanted it and they forced us to do it.
They forced us.
And as a consequence, now they...
What was it called? Wurtzlaw? What was the name of this fucking shit? Can we not be feared all the time, Cat? Please? Merck's, what was it called? Where you can understand so much about politics over the past 3 decades in the United States if you just understand that the Democrats are always treated as having ultimate agency and the Republicans are always treated as having no agency. Whenever anything bad happens, look at the language people use. When it happens bad under a Democrat, it's the Democrats' fault. When it happens bad under Trump, it's unavoidable or somebody else's fault. Every single fucking
Who could have
time.
expected it?
Every single time.
need $200 billion to replenish our missiles, and now there's an energy shock which will lead to an economic correction, and we may not even be out of this war. We don't know where this thing is headed, where we are right now. But JD did not dissent. He did not protest. He sat there and he encouraged Trump. And it doesn't matter how much these people criticize the war, they will endorse him in 28. They will try to get you to vote for this person. Simultaneously, they are telling you, and they're getting you all ramped up, telling you Trump is evil, Trump is the Antichrist, Netanyahu's evil, Israel brought us to war, this is diabolical, this is pure evil. And then they're going to tell you in 26, you got to vote Republican, and they'll tell you in 28, you got to vote for J.D. Vance. And these are the same people that told you to vote for Trump in 2024, even though we knew then that he would bring us to war in Iran, just like we know now that J.D. Vance will suck if he becomes the president. So no, I'm not listening to them. Thanks, but it's too late. Thank you, Tucker, very much. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Sneeko. But where were you in 2024 when Trump cut a deal with Miriam Adelson?
I'm trying to remember if Fuentes didn't endorse Trump. He must have, right? I know that he was kind of like, I know he got a little bit ass blasted, understandably so, over the whole disavowal shit. I don't remember. Yeah, I know he was kind of on and off. I don't remember at the end where he was at, though. I do know, though, that Kyle Kalinske did not endorse Kamala Harris. I know that much, even though he lies about it now.
And
loser.
To get $100 million. And in exchange, he promised her regime change in Iran and annexation of the West Bank. You people swept that under the rug and said it wasn't a big deal. Well, not everybody did that. Not everybody. So that's very important. Where is all of this headed? People say, what can we do? Where do we go? How can we get Trump to back off? You can't. You can't. Because you have no power.
True.
You have no audience with the president.
True.
He's not listening.
True.
He's on True Social.
True.
He's cloistered away by Susie Wiles. And you know what Susie Wiles is?
I don't even know what the fuck she does. So Stephen Miller is the deputy chief of staff, and Susan Wiles is the chief of staff, the White House chief of staff. But I never hear her brought up for anything ever. Maybe she just takes care of business.
Is she the one who has cancer now?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She's a lobbyist from Florida. And she was running this operation at least since 2021. And you should have known better. It's Susie Wiles, it's Rubio, it's Mike Waltz, it's Pam Bondi, it's all of these
It should be illegal to have politicians simultaneously in history whose names are too similar to each other. I fuck up Walls and Waltz too many times. It's too close. It shouldn't be that way.
They should have stage names.
Yep. Same thing with James Comey and Amy Coney.
And Comer?
And Gomer. Is it Gomer or Comer? Or there might be one of each.
There's a Comer, too, and a Gomer.
No way. Wait, is there a Gomer? Gomer might be another... Hold on.
Gomer...
No. I'm thinking of... Or am I thinking of the guy in Breaking Bad? His partner.
Okay, there's no one named Gomer. All right.
Gomez. Okay. I don't know. Too many. Not good.
Israel creatures from Florida, where he now resides. You should have known better.
What do you want me to say, guys? Who could have ever seen any of this coming?
We need a blue fucking tsunami.
Wait, did you watch the Melania movie?
No.
Wow. So
Did you?
You hate women? No, because
Yeah,
I
a
do
little
hate
bit,
women. Okay. Melania is distancing herself from public financier Jeffrey Epstein.
With the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect.
I don't want to shit on anybody with an accent. I'm so sorry. Have we ever?
I'll say it for you if you want.
Have we ever had a first lady that, like, because it is kind of funny that the party of like anti-immigration, people can't speak the language and all this bullshit, like that this is the first lady of the United States of America, where they want to make English a national language. Still speaks better English than Trump, though. But okay.
Respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited
You're stealing
to
a
the
moot
same
take.
parties
Is that a moot take?
as Epstein from time to time.
Yeah, I said she's been in
Since
America long
overlap-
enough. She should probably lose the accent and learn how to speak the language.
Damn. God damn.
Yeah, I'm pretty base.
Tapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998.
Was he married then?
This initial encounter with my husband is documented in a detail in my book, Melania.
The book.
The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. No.
Wow. The fuck is this?
In the mirror and you just don't see yourself.
Why was I like this?
You know what I mean? Sometimes you look in the mirror and you say, this isn't me. I look in the mirror, I have the beard and I'm like, who am I doing this for? This isn't me. I have to get back to myself. So I
Good one. Epic meme.
This administration had their chance. They've had a year and a half. They buckled on immigration. They shut it down and they capitulated to Israel and they brought us to war in Iran. You forfeited your right and mandate to govern. Forget it. 26, I'm voting Democrat. Megyn Kelly, fuck you. We're not. If Trump nukes Iran, I'm voting Democrat. Stupid. And the same goes for the rest of them. And in 2028, I'm going to vote in the Republican primary for an America First candidate. And if there is no America First candidate in 28, then I'm going to sit it out all over again. And that's what we need to be prepared to do.
No, vote Dem.
And if that means letting the Democrats win, so be it. I'm beyond caring at this point. This is now the party of blow the Republicans up. The Republicans have betrayed us. They have royally pissed me off. Now they need to be utterly destroyed.
Wow, hater.
And you know what they'll say? They'll bitch about this. They'll complain on Twitter. I've already seen it. They say, this Nick Fuentes, he's so destructive and divisive, and he's a child, and he's not serious, and he doesn't have a plan, and blah, blah. I'm a child of the Trump revolution. I voted for Trump in 16. I voted for Trump in 20. I went to Stop the Steal. I was there at January 6th. I voted for a border wall. How many times? I still don't have it. I voted for no new wars in America first. We're at war with Iran for Israel. So spare me the sanctimony. We're not listening anymore. They have betrayed us. They have stabbed us in the back. Now this is the price that they pay. They have to be utterly destroyed. So I don't listen to people that tell me to vote for people that are my enemy. I don't listen to somebody that tells me to use my vote, my God-given right as an American. It's the only thing I have that's free. It's the only influence I have that's mine. I'm not going to listen to somebody that tells me to squander that voting to empower somebody that hates me and will betray me and hurt me. And that means Tucker, Megyn Kelly, Candace, the rest of them, forget it.
Forget about it.
it.
Drink GMA soda. I wanted that Coke.
Fuck you.